Hi, welcome to my channel. This is my fourth video, in which I have created a template using HTML and CSS. Here is my template, which contains only the home page with 9 sections. The first section is the navbar, where I used the grid property to set the logo width to 20% and gave 100% width for the contact and email sections. After that, there are lists, which also have 100% width. The next section has a main div with the class hero section. Inside this, there is a div that contains text and 2 buttons, which I centered using width and margin in CSS. This same div also contains a form with 4 input fields and a submit button. The next section has a main div with the class about us section, which contains 2 child divs. The first child div, left about, contains text and some icons with text, followed by a button. The second child div, right about, contains images. I applied display flex to the parent div about us section so that both child divs align in a row. I also used justify content space between to create spacing between them. The next section has a main div with the classroom section, which contains some text followed by another div named rooms container. Inside this, I created 3 divs with a classrooms box, each containing an image and text. I applied display flex to the rooms container so that these boxes appear in a row. The next section has a main div with the class discover section, which has a black background color and 100% width to cover the full screen width. Inside this, I created another div named discover container, which contains 2 child divs. The first child div, left discover, contains text and a button. The second child div, right discover, contains an image. I applied display flex to the discover container to align these child divs in a row. The next section has a main div with the class rServices, which contains text followed by another div named services container. Inside services container, I created 3 child divs with the class services boxes, each containing an icon and text. I applied display flex to services container so that the child divs appear in a row. I created 3 more boxes in the same way. The next section has a main div with the class client section, which has a background image set in CSS with 100% width and no repeat. Inside this, I created another div named client container, which contains an icon and 2 client box divs. Each client box contains text and an image, followed by another icon. I applied display flex to client container so that the icon and boxes align in a row. The next section has a main div with the class out team, which contains text followed by another div named team container. Inside team container, I created 3 child divs with the class team boxes, each containing an image and text. I applied display flex to team containers so that the child divs appear in a row. The next section has a main div with the class block section, which contains text followed by another div named block container. Inside block container, I created 3 child divs with the class block boxes, each containing an image and text. I applied display flex to block containers so that the child divs appear in a row. Another section contains a main div named newsletter, which has a white background color and is centered using width and margin in CSS. Inside this, I placed an H1 tag for the newsletter heading, an input field, and a submit button. The final section is the footer, which has a main div with the class footer. Inside this, I created another div named footer container, which contains 4 child divs. The first child div, contact one, has text and is styled with width and background color. The second child div contains lists and social media icons. The third and fourth child divs contain lists. I applied display flex to footer container so that the child divs align in a row. This is how my template is completed. I generated this code using Visual Studio Code, and it is also available on my GitHub account. Thank you for watching the video.